Welcome to day 32 of the 300 Movie Challenge. Today we would be watching the highest grossing film of January 1997. However, the highest grossing film of that month was the re-release of Star Wars: A New Hope. Instead, we watched Iron Man.
They're close enough. It's like the
We'll
same
take your
movie.
word for it because I haven't seen
There's a
that
guy
movie.
in a robotic suit in both movies.
Okay.
So it
Fair
works.
Fair enough.
So these guys actually haven't watched the full film before. I'm actually the only one who's watched this.
I've actually, and you think, 20, like a male in his 20s in, this year, obviously he's watched all these movies. I have never seen a single Marvel movie. And it's like, I've seen bits and pieces of like a few of them. Like I feel like I saw like a very small part of one of the Thor movies. But anyway, the point, and like there's no real reason I haven't watched them. I just haven't. So, it's not like I'm like, I don't want to watch it. It's just that like, I don't know, I never got around to it. I didn't have like a huge desire to see them because I didn't, grow up with these things. I was never super into superhero stuff. So, but
Ironically enough, I watched this in India. While visiting my aunt and uncle, and they were like, "Hey, let's go see this movie." And me and my brother were like, "Okay, sure." um, so this is actually like my fourth or fifth time watching this, actually.
I've seen like one part of this movie like when it was on TV once, and I saw the test flight where he gets iced over, and that's it.
Yeah,
But,
I know for a fact I had not seen a single frame of this film. So
Okay.
It was very interesting because I knew what was going to happen in like the first like 20 minutes or so, but it was very interesting listening to you guys.
Yeah, because
questions.
I was just like that. I did not expect that to happen.
Yeah.
right at the beginning, yeah.
You don't expect how the series events goes, but I actually really like how they did that though.
Yeah. I like how they opened it, and I've seen like other movies from Marvel, like kind of not in any particular order. I've seen like The Avengers, and after watching this movie, I have a new appreciation for Iron Man, certainly.
Yeah, like, well, one thing that I was kind of impressed with just in general is that it kind of, took the whole superhero idea, which is kind of, it's a silly idea to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And they made it, like, fit the modern world and, and make it, quote unquote adult. I don't mean, like, in that way, but you know what I mean. Not childish, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they don't, like, make it super dark and gritty and woo, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah, there are plenty
They
of
made
parts
it very
of humor.
realistic.
right,
Yeah.
because like I know there's a lot of films. I mean, like DC, is it DC? I don't know. I don't know this that well. But like especially like Batman versus Superman through DC, and like well, that was a complaint of Man of Steel as well from DC, and then that Fantastic Four movie, and I actually think Fantastic Four is neither Marvel or DC. Anyway, whatever. The point is, like, those movies, everyone's like, oh, they're, like, being so dark and serious and brooding just to be dark and serious. And it's like, this was serious, but it wasn't, like, too much, right? It was naturally
Yeah.
serious. It was appropriately serious. And it walked that fine line. Because, again, there's some jokes going around. There's some silly stuff. But then they also show, like, basically terrorists, like, terrorizing a small village. Like, kind of viscerally, too. And it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, they actually showed that, right?
Yeah.
So I was impressed by that kind of balance that they had.
It's a very good balance, definitely.
It's also very compelling too, and
Yeah.
as Valen said too, it's a more realistic approach to how one would go about becoming a superhero. Not to say that it's
Right.
Don't go out and do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, because if you think about it, it's kind of like a selfish story, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for a greater goal, but
Yeah.
and it's again for someone of his character, he makes decisions that you understand, and you're like, okay, yeah, I see why he would do that, right?
Yeah.
And
And
that's
he admits being selfish too.
yeah, and like I like the fact that well, actually, because at the very beginning, I thought I might not like him as a character, because I thought he was being a little bit like douchey, but he's not that douchey, and like at the same time, like it's kind of like he's kind of a douche, but it's like in a you know, it's kind of it's for your own good kind of way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like he's a bad person. So, you know, because I hate when movies are trying to play off like, you know, we've watched movies like this where it's like, look at this terrible guy, feel sorry for him, and it's like, no, right? Yeah, well, a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
like in this case, he earns it because
Right.
he's like, I have issues, but I mean, I don't let my issues justify the fact that sometimes I can be a jerk.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like Pepper in this movie too.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
she gets stuff done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
She's
gets
not.
stuff done.
She's not your because I thought, well, I guess not thought, but I was just thinking, like, oh, is she just gonna be like the girl who falls for him? And it's like not even really that. Like she's kind of a very. I'm trying to think of like any other character that kind of is like her, and I can't really think of one. Because she's like
She's kind of like his rock, basically.
Yeah.
like she's both. Because she's like a mix of like so many things, right?
Yeah,
Because
she's like,
she's kind of like the girlfriend role, kind of, not even fully. But then she's also like a direct hands-on helper and also like an emotional support kind of person. So like she kind of does everything, you know.
yeah.
So
She does a very good job at doing her job.
right.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah,
I love
that
her.
is one thing. She actually like accomplishes things and does things on her
Yeah.
own, right?
Yeah.
So that's nice to
She-
see.
Yeah, because she brought the agents over and everything to arrest the guy and stuff, and then she also, like, she technically was the one to defeat the bad guy in the movie.
Yeah.
Because he was the one that, like, set off the reactor and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Iron Man kind of just distracted and made time for her and stuff, but she's ultimately the one that actually, like, defeated the guy.
I really like their relationship because you can tell that he really trusts her to do like things right
Right.
and like also keep
Yeah.
him in his place.
yeah.
And I really like how they're kind of like equals in that way too.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you would expect from him that it would kind of go the typical route with like action movies and whatnot, but they're actually equals, as my aunt said, and it's really refreshing.
There was like one part where she was like, you wouldn't last a day without me, and he was like, of course I can last a week, and she was like, so what's your social security number? And he just like silence.
I love that part.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay. If I were to complain about anything, and this is not even like it's bad, it's just kind of like, the villain himself, I'm kind of on. Like
I
he's
agree with
just
that.
not super
Yeah.
interesting. He's just okay.
Yeah.
And okay, I expected a little bit more from the climax. Just a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like it was kind of over a bit quickly.
A
I
little
guess it's
pizzazz.
because like he was running out of battery. So
No,
that's
I
probably-
get it from a story perspective, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
from a movie perspective, I was expecting a little bit more.
Yeah.
They
So-
could have like exaggerated the time a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, again, you could say like, oh, it's the first movie. You know, he himself doesn't even know how to control the thing that well. So, again, it makes sense. It's just I would kind of like to see more, but I guess that's incentive to watch the next couple movies, right?
Yeah.
And that does actually get me. I am curious to see because like the fact that he said, "Oh, I am Iron Man." It's like I said it and I thought about like, have I ever seen anything with a superhero where everyone totally like knows who he is? So I'm actually kind of curious to see what they do with that now. So that's something to look forward to. But unfortunately, we won't be watching those movies for quite a while.
So it's like Born Identity again.
Yeah, basically. So
You brought up two interesting points though, because I remember when I first was watching it, I was like, okay, this is like what they usually do for the superhero movie and stuff. And then when he like openly admitted he was Iron Man, I was like, what?
yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, wait, you're doing that?
uh-huh. So yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, exactly. I'll be curious to see where it goes.
And then
Because I do think
Yep.
that's kind of like a common thing in superheroes that I feel like it's such a common trope and it's so well done so often that I kind of like get annoyed when they do it
Yeah.
Yeah.
anymore. Because like for example, well, I kind of don't want to go into this, but like I somewhat recently watched through all of the DC animated universe, the like the animated Batman show from the 90s, the Superman show, Justice League, all that kind of stuff. And there were like a few times where I got kind of like annoyed that they didn't they kind of were sticking to that plot line, specifically for the Superman show and also Batman Beyond, where I'm just like, I feel like you could make something really interesting and actually enhance kind of the characters and the plot that you are going for by, for example, having Lois Lane like find out Superman's Clark Kent. But the thing is that like that's such an ingrained part of the Superman story that like if they broke that, then like people would riot. So you know what I mean? It's one of those kinds of problems where I'm just like, but you know, I live with it. So, but it is at least nice to see like, okay, they just completely ignored it. That's who he is. Cool. Now I want to see what they do with it.
The other part that I found interesting was like they actually showed his process in making the suit. It wasn't like brand new comes out of the closet. You actually like see for a good portion of the movie him making the suit, going through the mistakes and everything too.
I think that's also a big part of his character because like he's an inventor, so he was kind of like, okay, I gotta do this, and then he fucks up, and then he's like, okay, let's try again.
Yeah.
I broke my car. Oops.
He doesn't just ask his honey for his super suit.
Oh, burn!
Reference. Oh, so funny.
Oh my god.
Well,
I guess that goes without saying. We all liked it.
Yeah, we all liked it. I mean, if you're one of the 3 people who are watching this who haven't seen this movie, like myself, then go watch it. That said, we will be. Let's just say we'll be coming back to this world a bit sooner than you might expect.
Yeah.
Put it away.
Yeah.
So until then, whenever that is, we'll see you next time.
Well, we're going back to the past now. So.
Yeah.
Oh yes, we are.
Back to the past.
Yeah.
Let's get in the time machine, guys.
Yep, we're going back to the 1900s now.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.